Good evening and welcome to the Poets Cafe. It is where artists come to life. The spoken word brings forth the inner creation of hidden treasure, expressing tones of lyrics felt within the soul, a vibration that brings stories untold. This platform represents artists of all backgrounds, be it writers, singers, spoken word, artistic expressions and painting, literature, poetry, and a journey through life. Mystery seeks to bring new ideas and opportunities through the mind at all levels. Wherefore my time leaving tomorrow on the wings of yesterday, where birds fly higher than the mystery of dreams never knew. Why do mellow sounds ring silently without ever leaving memories of my lonely blues? We walk by the calls of nature, sing in harmony, pray for the love of the skies, and dance with the stars like a feminine ballerina, gazing across the stage in a soft-toed ballerina shoes. Welcome to the Artists of Poetry Cafe show, Poetically Speaking, hosted by Terry Benjamin and Ron C. McCrae. As delighted as we are, we can't wait to engulf a new wave of presenting this platform to our audience. So, sit back and enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and now let's get started.
Let's get started. It is May, and it is Poetically Speaking with Ronald C. McCrae and Terry Benjamin. And you are our community. And so we welcome you to this program this evening. And it is May still, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Again, and with all these designations, whether it be Black History, Women's History, whatever, again, this is not 1 month, it's something that mental health is ongoing each and every day. And so we say Mental Health Awareness Month, but we know this is ongoing. But again, that's the way they call it this month. But we want to begin our program. And today's agenda is living from a new place in joy, peace, and happiness. And the quote of the day is, never be afraid to sit a while and think. And this is from Lorraine Hansberry, playwright best known for her play A Raisin in the Sun. And again, so we bring you information that we hope that you can use. We're putting it down, and we hope that you can pick it up and share it among your family and friends. But as always, and it really gives me a great pleasure to introduce this first segment of our program, which we call Ron's Poetry. And so, my brother, I'm always excited because I don't know what you're going to come up with. It's a mystery and a blessing at the same time,
Yeah. Before I get started, I'd just like to add to that, because one of the most important things, I say this in a joking way, but I also take it serious. We all take it serious. Mm-hmm. This month is mental health. Every day is a mindset, that's thinking. Right. Don't be afraid to sit alone and think. Yes. I think all the time. I just haven't drove myself insane. But nevertheless, in all seriousness, all of us have to think about how do we think. Mm-hmm. And my motto is always, do you think, how do you think, and what do you think about?
That's right.
Let me read this for starters. Mm-hmm. A renewal of mind and body. By renewing the mind, body, spirit, and emotional state, one can care for oneself. Self is a state to find that place of harmony, a place where life welcomes one into the world far beyond their imagination, to relieve the pressure of a chaotic world of unbalanced thinkers. Mm-hmm. And I broke this down. Aura, renewal, remember, return, revisit, revive, rejuvenate, restore, realignment of self. Mm-hmm. E, internal, exploring from the inside out. N, needing to organize self-discipline for healing the body. Mm-hmm. E, explore every element of the mind, body, and spirit back to its whole potential place of origin. Mm-hmm. W, wellness, full of vibrant nutrients injected into the soul of the whole spirituality. Mm-hmm. A, aligning all parts to their place for which it was placed, living life to its fullest. We only have one. Organize it, mold it, comfort it, please it, take care of it, praise it, and be the best that God has given you. Treasure the moment that you have. Now, let's take the first step toward that place where life has birthed you, a place high on the top of a mountain or low near the river's edge, and land full of milk and honey, a land as solid as a rock. Stability is a place where I feel great after a visit to the garden of life, where I found my soul of health and wellness, never in a fight. The renewal of my mind, body, spirit, and soul.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful because, again, what it does, it really brings us into the whole idea of that mindfulness, that whole concept is something that we need to look at. And maybe for some people, Ron, is not so much being mindful, but maybe it's like taking back our minds, because we had let our minds just go in so many places based on social media and just different ideas that are really just thrown out there. You know, it's so much going on in social media that you don't know what's true and you don't know what's deceptive. And if you get out there too far, you know, you're going to lose your mind. And so maybe what we have to do is take back our minds and go from there, you know?
And if you take care of your mind the same way with all mothers, when you birth a child into this world, you comfort that child, you birth that child, you feed that child, you protect that child. Do the exact same thing with your mind, because it doesn't say that because I'm too old. There's no such thing. Are you still living? Are you still breathing?
That's right.
And so the whole thing is birth your brain. Revisit that what that is saying to you, that is screaming or crying, yearning for something, because as you just indicated, see, the world in a lot of ways is your enemy. The world is the world is there to distract you, but it's up to you to capture the attention that's all around you, so you know how to protect your mind, your body, your spirituality, and again, to sit alone and think about what's around you, think what you're thinking about.
And that's true. And again, this is something that you have to do for yourself, because again, just like your daily diet, just like your daily exercise, your daily intake of water, all the things you need to do to maintain yourself, to sustain yourself, this has to be part of your routine. And that's why, you know, I always say, Ron, that, you know, I believe that we should develop the habit of literacy. And when I say the habit, is every day. You know, every day you do some reading, some writing, some talking, some listening, and some viewing. And so you have a whole idea of what your day looks like before you begin your day. I think a lot of times we don't realize that our routine can really determine the quality of our life and the quality of our living. And that's why we say the agenda today is living, because we want you to live. But living in what way? Living from a place, from a new place, in joy, in peace, and happiness. And again, and I wish that for you as well as for myself. You know, whatever I wish for you, I wish for all mankind. And that's why, you know, again, we are connected in our humanness. And that's why I hate to see division. I hate to see all the strife and toil and just craziness, because again, we forget that we are connected. You know, I think sometimes we forget that.
You know, life is beautiful. Life is what it is. It's life. It's for you to enjoy every moment, every second. Have you taken a walk, a stroll, just to feel the harmonious feelings all around you? Do you think about the birds, the bees, the leaves, the trees, and all those creatures all around, rather than focus on the negativity? It's not about the negativity, it's about the positivity. What can you gain from that, so when you return back to your place of destination, you can say, you know what? I had a good time. I remember even as a child, as a kid, you know, you listen to, at that time, some of the older ones says, you know, I had a good time today. I took a stroll to
It
the
was
store.
a good day,
I went down and got my potatoes and whatever I needed. They took a stroll. And they felt the feeling of what life was all about to them at that time. What are you doing today?
Yeah, that is so true. And that's why, you know, when we come to you on either a Thursday from 6 to 7 or a Sunday from 5 to 6, we try to bring you the best of what we have. And many times as we go through the program, we have many guests, you know. And there are times when we ask certain guests to come back, not because they were better than other guests, but is that there's just some unfinished business, okay? and we like completeness, we like closure, and so this evening, by popular demand, our demand, we're bringing back a guest that was with us before, and those who were with us the first time that we met this young man, you know that you're in for a treat. But those who are really experiencing for the first time, hey man, I envy you, because again, you have this first experience that we had before. But Ron, who do we have with us this evening?
Well, we have a fine gentleman, because again, as you just indicated, this gentleman that has come back, and it's not a repeat of the same. No. Things change, but it's that continuation of growth. Mm-hmm. Things that's in your mind, what we just talking about. Mm-hmm. How do you think? I'm not going to tell you the title. I'm going to let him tell you the title, because the bottom line is, as we will say, it's all in your mind.
That's right.
That's right. You hear people tell you, "Oh, you crazy? What's in your mind? Are you crazy?" Whatever the case may be. So who we have today is a return author.
Yes.
A gentleman who have journeyed, who have walked, and still on a pathway to a higher place of freedom. Mm-hmm. And that's what's important, because again, he has not given up, nor should you. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here today, to talk about how do you continue to move forward. What can we do as you help us to help you, to have this gentleman to tell you his journey and all the footsteps and all the steps that need to be taken. So again, who we have here is Mike Kupo, if I pronounce it correct.
Yes.
Okay. A gentleman.
And here's his book.
The title is It's Only Monday. No, it's Monday. What is it?
It's Monday only in your mind.
It's Monday only in your mind. So I apologize for the incorrection. But that's what's important, because you can't get stuck on one day. If you think it's Monday and you still think it's Monday, and next week them came and gone.
That's right.
So,
and left you behind.
So once again, Mike Kupo.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, brother. Welcome. Let me give him a hand. We want to do a real clap. And Michael, I know one of the things that you do, you have these. I don't know if I want to call them sermons. I don't know what you call them, but you have these daily ideas that you put out, And I know you had one for today, and so I guess maybe it's not even a question. So what is your thought for today? What are you putting out for today?
Well, today my article is about truly supportive. If what you're doing is truly supportive or not.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it's very important, because even if you're doing things that you think are healthy, it may even be deeper than that it isn't healthy.
Okay.
It all depends on the attachment and how it holds you in captivity. Like, I like going to the gym. I go to the gym a lot, probably 6 days a week.
Okay.
But what would happen to me if I couldn't go to the gym? And that's very important to get in touch with, like you were talking about, Ron. The second part of the title of my book is "You Are Not Your Thoughts." You have to become aware of your thinking. You have to become aware of what your thoughts, what's transpiring in between your ears. What thoughts, because a thought, in essence, you don't have control over it coming in. But what you do with it is what really makes your reality.
Yeah, and they say that unfortunately, I don't know exactly why this is, but they say most of the thoughts that you think are negative. And Michael, why is that? You would think that you have some control of your mind, but why is the multitude of thoughts coming in negative rather than positive?
That I really don't know, but I know you're correct with stating that. But the point is to become aware of them.
Okay.
So what one of the things that I have used that has helped me, like with mild forms of depression, or not clinical, but or I should put it like this: mild forms of negativity.
Okay. Yes.
I use a tool that I just stop and say, just do what's in front of you.
Okay.
Just do what's in front of you, Because what it would happen is especially like the springtime, or you can get caught up in all the to-do list.
Yes. Yes.
And once that happens, you're just moving on, and it's. We were talking about this earlier, the circular energy.
Yeah.
Well, what is your circular energy? Is it negative? Is it positive? Is it hateful, loving? So you can get caught up in that if you're not aware of it. And what happens to me is the thoughts come in, but by just saying, look, just do what's in front of you. It's very powerful.
Yeah, because again, I think what it comes down to, you said in your book, the subtitle is that you are not your thoughts. And so what you have to do is really take the time to be quiet, to be still, and it's almost like, these thoughts are coming at you, but in your stillness, in your quietness, you can control it. Because again, you don't have to think that negative thought, You could wake up in the morning and say, hey, it's going to be a great day. As opposed to say, you know what, I'm looking outside, it's rainy, it's gray, it's gloomy, it's going to be a terrible day. But you can look at the side and say, it's rainy, it's gloomy, but you know what, I'm still alive. I still can do the things that I want to do. So what happens, you take that thought that is a negative thought and you make it a positive thought. And again, your body takes that in. And you because we are energy, then you're putting out a new energy,
Exactly. That's exactly.
So what you say, Brother Ron, because I see you taking those notes, man. Don't be stingy now, man. You got to share.
It's interesting because again, you're on the same accord, and I like this. This question is, what is a thought? Wow. And I think that's important. What is a thought? How did one come to a point of receiving something? You bring something into your mind as you was expressing, but then it was formulated inside your head, and it came out. Why did it come out? How did it come out? Did it come out with some clarity? Because to come out with some clarity, because it was formulated in your mind, what came in? And that's what's important because, like you was just saying, a positive and a negative. And if it came out, did it come out in a positive way? And how did it come out? And who received it? And how did they receive it? If it's negative, a lot of times you can tell it's negative because you can tell the response of a person, how it affects them. They jump back, it hurt their feelings, they express whatnot. And if that's the case, how many of you apologize if you felt something came out the way somebody received it, if they received it the wrong way? Did you apologize? And in the same token, when you're sitting alone, you're thinking, how many think about apologizing to yourself, the way you think, what you thought about, the conversation you had in your own head? Did you apologize? Did you talk to yourself? That's important. And I'm not talking about talking to yourself going crazy. And I say this not in a disrespectful way for those who have, unfortunately, in that level or that environment. But as a whole, do you have a conversation with yourself to formulate the understanding of that thought that came into your head?
Right.
What is a thought?
Yeah, because again, Michael, how do you deal with because we do have what they call self-talk. So how do we change that self-talk? How do we make that more positive?
Well, I think what for myself is my revelation is to be present as much as possible. And what that has done for me was it has allowed me not to attach to the thoughts, to see them for what they are. A lot of my behaviors, I was always a reactor to thoughts, but the unconsciousness just allows that energy to repeat itself over and over and over. And without awareness of that, you're on a self-destructive path without even knowing it. So many people in this day and age, are on that path, and they're not even aware of it. And that's why I love you guys, because we connected so much because we are trying to do the same thing, just bring awareness to people.
Yes.
So once you become aware of it, it doesn't make you a better human than anybody else, but it does allow you to see that quietness and go there more so than not, and become more loving, more in line, more in harmony with the universe, as opposed to going against the grain all the time.
That's beautiful, and that's why, again, as we speak to our community, we speak to those who are watching the program, and we speak to those, as some have been with us from day one, and one of the things that we talk about, again, we talk about that the community, the heart of our community is education, and for us, a lot of it is found in books, because again, that's a diet. What you read is part of your diet. Richard Medley says good evening. He's one of our regulars, and hey, what's happening, Richard? Dina Robinson, she says, hi, Terry Benjamin and Ronald. I'm traveling to Springfield, Massachusetts to a family member funeral, but I had to check in. Dina, we're giving you traveling mercies. We hope that you go and do what you have to do and come back, But again, you are part of our community. And this segment of the program is called Mind, Body, and Books. And what I do is I try to make our community aware of books. And again, like I said, I think we are really determined by habits. So I want us to develop the habit of literacy. And when I say develop the habit of literacy, is going beyond just simple reading and writing. Like I said, we do 5 things every day. We read, we write, we talk, we listen, and we view something worthwhile. And when we read, and what I suggest to our community is that you read at least 2 books a week. Okay, read a fiction book and read a nonfiction book. And my recommendation for this week, and really what I'm reading, is again, my fiction book is entitled "It's Not All Downhill from Here." It's a novel by Terry McMillan. And again, she is the one who wrote the novel Waiting to Exhale, and was made into a movie, as well as Disappearing Acts was also a movie. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to meet Terry McMillan when she wrote her first book, was called Mama. As a matter of fact, she spoke to one of my classes at Union County College in Cranford, and I got a chance to meet her. Her first book, I got to read it in the galleys, which is a book before it's actually published, and she came in and she was quite a lady. At that time, she's working 9 to 5, and she hadn't broken out yet, but she had the book called Mama, and I was able to read it. And this book here is about a woman who was 68. So she is telling us, it is not all downhill from here. And it's a very beautiful book, a very dramatic book, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. Also, now that's my fiction book. My nonfiction book is a book called Black People Breathe, a mindfulness guide to racial healing. And again, and I want to just share this from her. She says here, and the author is Z. Clark. And she says here, please note, although this book is written for Black people and tailored to the Black experience in America, those of other backgrounds who experience similar challenges can also benefit from the tools that I will share. To my white friends, I invite you to educate yourself about the Black experience with an intention informed by both empathy and action. I also invite you to think about what role you might play to accelerate change. And she quotes here Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is on our board in the back there. And Dr. Maya Angelou says here, my mission in life is not to merely survive, but to thrive. And I want to read that again because I want that to sink into our community. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive. And this is Dr. Maya Angelou, who I had the opportunity to meet when she spoke at Kane University when I was teaching there. And so again, we bring these people to your attention. We bring these concepts to your attention because we want you to be on the same journey that we're on. And before we go into our food for thought segment, my brother has another book that you might want to think about in terms of reading and getting some things from it. So what do you have there for us, brother? I see that's very
Before
interesting.
I introduce it, I'd just like to say that because Mike said something, and as you responded to one of the comments, and that is, I am here. I am here today in this present moment, and that's what's important. Are you here in this present moment? And the other thing is, as we are talking in this dialogue, because of one of the response, one of the audience is out at a funeral, that in itself says a lot. What is the mental state of those individuals grieving or whatever you're going through?
Yes.
We pay our respects, but understanding, are you here today?
Right.
And what is life to you? So what I have here also as we continue to move on is this book here, Telling Yourself the Truth. Telling Yourself the Truth. This is by William Marie and Bacchus Champion. You know, it's important, and I just want to read this piece in here because this ties into the conversation, and as our guest Mike has brought forth and the dialogue we are having here. The words we say to ourselves. Self-talk means the words we tell ourselves in our thought. It means the words we tell ourselves about people, self-experience, life in general, God, the future, the past, the present. It is specifically all of the words you say to yourself all of the time. What are the lies and half-truth you repeat to yourself? Which misbelief keep you unhappy and upset? First, you must learn how to identify the misbelief in your life. Where do the lies and misbeliefs start? The answer to that is in your self-talk. What we was talking about.
Yes.
No matter how you look at it. What our guest is talking about.
I like
no matter how you look at it. You know, Monday is only in your mind.
That's right.
You know, and I'm not saying this out of disrespect or not pronouncing it, but this is what we talk about. What's in your head?
That's right. And again, and like I said, we're getting ready to go into a very exciting segment. But again, I just want to remind you again, the two books that I'm reading this week. The one, Black People Breathe, by Z. Clark. And it says here on the back of the book, it is all right to survive. It is all right to thrive. Mindfulness and breath work will help you do just that. In this powerful book, mindfulness teacher Z. Clark offers mindfulness exercises, breath work, practices, and meditation tools centered on healing and survival for those who have endured racial trauma. A mixture of guide and memoir, Clark draws on her professional expertise and her lived experience as a Black woman to share the practices that have been essential to her well-being. And again, that's the nonfiction, and this is fiction. And again, from Terry McMillan, is not all downhill from here, you know. And so again, I've been following Terry for a long time, and you know, she's written many books. And again, with writing, with speaking, the more you do it, the better you get. Now, this part of the program we call Food for Thought. And one of the reasons that we have Michael with us this evening, because we began talking about his book. And we got through the first part of the book, and I said to Ron, and I told Michael, I said, we got to bring him back because there's a second part. And so I called this sort of unfinished business. And the unfinished business begins on chapter 12. And it's titled 12 Steps to Freedom and Interpretation. And so what Michael is going to do, he's going to take us through these 12 steps. And again, we're not going to go through all 12, but we want to give you a taste of what he means. And he says here, 12 steps to freedom and interpretation. So what say you, Michael, about that? What does that mean exactly?
Well, when you were reading the book about the truth, it really brought something up in me.
Wow.
And because what it is people waste a lot of time trying to find the truth. But it's very difficult because we interpret things differently.
Yes.
What happened to me was once I started sitting, the lies were exposed. And once I was was able to see the lies of my own mind was creating,
Yes, yes.
what I was left with was truth.
Okay, I love that.
And it really it gave me a whole different way of looking at things, a whole different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason why I developed the 12 steps,
Mm-hmm.
my interpretation,
Yes.
was because I went, and this is not to say anything negative about the 12-step programs or anything.
Okay.
But what happened to me is after like 18 years, I relapsed, and that made me look inside.
Yes, yes.
You know, at, well, what am I missing? And what happened to me is when I really started looking inside, I started, and it all this whole segment ties in because especially with the back of what that woman was talking about,
Yes, yes.
the meditation
Yes,
and
yes.
the practices. What happens is when you meditate or when you use the breath, you can't breathe outside in the past or future. So when you take a breath, it puts you present.
It does. It does.
So the more that you can develop that discipline, what happens is the more that you develop awareness,
Yes.
awareness of the lies, and the more that you can see your own behavior and the thoughts and all that, and what it does is it allows you to make a decision and say, no, I'm not going there. I don't have to. I don't have to use that to complete me.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and that's the whole point of what we're doing is we're looking for completeness.
Yes. Yeah.
Because those who are complete don't need anything. They have that sense of well-being that they live from their heart.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what like I wrote my book and I was done writing it. I said, well, now what? I had like 167 pages.
Yeah.
And that's what came to me was the 12 steps.
Yes.
It just so happened I was on chapter 12. But it
just worked out that way, right?
yeah. It wasn't like I planned this or anything. Like I was telling you guys, I never even planned on writing a book. It just happened.
Anyway, right.
Because the creativity that was inside me arose because now I was starting to get quiet.
Yes.
So what I did was I put my own interpretation because going to 12-step program, it seemed like people were always missing some aspect of what they were about.
Yes.
And what they're about is to go inward so you can become freer. So you first have to, the first step is we admitted we were controlled by our conditioned mind patterns and became aware of how they caused our behavior and reactions to be self-centered, which is, if you can just grasp that, it's so powerful because that was what my whole thing was is when I went through what I did is I saw how, although I didn't use the substance that I did, many years ago, I was still the same self-centered person that I always was.
Yes.
Always the same thought pattern, the same me mind and all that. And I understood that had to change. So that was like very powerful, admitting that and seeing that. It had nothing to do with a substance. It had to do with my own mind.
Yeah.
The substance didn't matter. It was my thinking that made me relapse. See, everybody who relapses, they're clean at the time. So what makes them do that?
Yeah.
Their mind,
Yeah.
the thought. No matter, like once you take a substance or anything, then what happens is the physical takes over.
Yeah.
But like you said, before that, it's mental. And the mental health month is just to bring awareness to that, to what goes on between your ears. And once I started seeing that, and I developed the steps to really get involved in my own recovery, my recovery of life, not from a substance, from my own thinking, from myself. So then I came to understand that cooperation with universal energy will allow us to be in harmony with life. And that was so important, and that's what the whole discipline of being in the present is about. When you're not all caught up in what's going on between your ears and your thoughts, and you have that stillness that you talked about, that there it is.
It's beautiful.
You don't need to explain it. It really, you can't explain it. But
just a couple of points before you read. I just want to these are points, not get into it. The food for thought, because everything you was expressing and some of the thoughts, the points here. Create your own image. Is it real? You know, because as we were talking, as you were expressing, when you sit there, you have these images inside. You bring these characters to life. Are they real? And unfortunately, too many act upon those images that's in the head that doesn't exist outward. You know, and the other one, who are the characters? Who are they? You know, too often we see people in society say, well, they're crazy because they're talking to themselves. Well, I look at this. One thing I've learned is that they know who they're talking to. It may not exist or real to us, but the bottom line is those characters that they are talking to that's inside their head, they didn't create any destruction. And that's what the issue is when also understanding health and wellness and a mental illness. What is it, who is it, and who created the characters? That's what's important too. And this last one here, because even what you just expressed, Mike, and what we're talking about, all that's poetry. You could take that negative and turn it to poetry. That's what a poet is, and writer, and author, when we open up, a reader.
I like that.
You know, all of that is poetry. You bring those stories to life and tell the story, because only you can tell it. You may not understand it. We may not understand it, but that's not the point of what we understand, is what you bring to life for somebody to unravel that and look at it from a different perspective, because it's helping somebody who's on a journey and lost.
And it's a beautiful thing, and that's why, you know, again, you know, community, again, we have Michael come back to the program, because like he said, he got up to chapter 12 in his book, and he realized that there was another step to go, and he really started writing the 12 steps to freedom and interpretation. And so we did step 1 and we did step 2. But Michael, let's continue with step number 3.
All right, step number 3, made a decision to practice aligning our will and our lives to be in harmony with the divine purpose, so our heart stays open and our behavior is of universal love instead of self-centeredness.
Yeah, I like that.
And that was important to put that in there, because it's a decision to make. You get up every morning, and that's the decision that you make. And it doesn't involve a whole lot of noise. It's just a decision that, like we talk about, you are what you think about. You become what you think about. So if you're making a decision to have your energy be directed towards universal love instead of self-centeredness.
Yes.
Regardless of, we're all human. We're not going to escape that. So the self-centeredness is going to be there, especially depending on how conditioned you are. But can you go beyond that? And once you start telling yourself that, and you can start really seeand the divine purpose and aligning your energy with that purpose, with that love, then what happens is, and this is only my experience, but the self-centeredness becomes less and less.
That's a beautiful thing, and I like when you talk about divine purpose, and you talk about universal love. You know, I was talking to my brother. We spent some time in Princeton, the Princeton Library, and I was saying to him, I said, you know what? You could educate yourself. If you went into the Princeton Library and you made yourself a reading list and you read those 5 to 10 books, you could come up with a whole new way of looking at things. As a matter of fact, that could be a class that you took. you didn't have a teacher, but you had a reading list. And one of the things that I learned when I was a professor at different colleges and universities, I told my students, if you master the vocabulary of this subject, you can understand this subject a lot better. So when we look at Michael's book and we talk about conditioned mind patterns, when we talk about universal energy, when we talk about divine purpose and universal love. So if you had a glossary of terms and you understand those terms, you could really understand this book at a higher level. And I want to continue on to step number 4.
Step 4. Now that one takes a little work because it's made a searching inventory of the self-centered behavior that kept us in bondage and isolated us from our own innate goodness.
Wow. That says a lot.
Powerful. Yeah, it's very, see, because I was my awakening was, for me, was when I said I have met the enemy and it is me. It like opened up so much for me because it's not about what society, and it's not to discount if society wrongs you or whatever, but the bottom line is how do you handle it? What do you do with it? How do you allow it to control you like the puppet on a string, or can you go beyond it and really get in touch with that love in your heart, your own innate goodness? Can you go beyond it, or are you going to go around for the rest of your life and just keep blaming everybody?
Because I think myself personally, it's kind of hard to treat someone bad if you see them as you are. I mean, it's kind of hard to hurt someone that you know. I mean, we do that, but like you said, we have that innate goodness, and that innate goodness is really, if your mind is right, would have you not hurt someone, you know. Because again, you know, that's not our nature. If our nature is pure and is righteous, and again, this material is just, for me, it gives life, and that's why I want you to continue for our community. Let's go to step number 5.
All right. Just one thing, like you were saying, is what really helped me was once I understood my own conditioning. Well, how can I judge you?
Yes.
Because we're all human, we're all conditioned. So it really helped me so much because it's so powerful, you know, because you understand yourself. We're all the same. So it was a really powerful opening for me, you know.
Beautiful.
All right, so step 5. Now the step 4 takes work. You got to write it. You got to really look inward, you know. So once you do that, then you go to step 5, which is identify the exact nature of the wrongs and the associated behavior that held us in our self-created bondage and blocked us from reaching the full potential of our creative energy.
I love that.
And that was really now, and all this stuff was happening to me. And that's like I said, it was never my intention to write a book. All I wanted was to find peace.
Yes.
That's all I wanted. You know, that's real, you know. And when I went through what I did, I read a lot of books. The first 2 years, I must have read 20-something books on all different religions because I was searching. I didn't understand what happened to me. What am I missing?
Yes.
And for me, they all pointed to the same thing, is that I had to learn how to be present more and more. And once I started doing that, it was like the world opened up. You know, like I saw the lies. So once I started seeing the lies, it started heading me in a direction of truth. And once that happened, it just amazing that how your creativity. I must have always been a writer, but I was just blocked. It was just blocked because I never wrote before or anything, you know, and it just opened up my heart. And everybody's an artist in one way or another.
I believe that.
It's just that they don't understand what is in there until you can really get quiet enough to allow it to arise.
But because that creative energy that you talk about, see, that creative energy could be expressed in many different ways. It could be a poem. It could be an essay. It could be a novel. It could be a speech. You know, that creative energy again is. I mean, and we all have it. We all have it.
Yes.
And one of the things about schools is, I know one of the things when I was teaching, especially on the college level, the worst part of the job for me was giving grades. Because for me, grades A, B, C, D, whatever F is a judgment, and I don't know how you can help people if you judge them. You know, I mean, what makes this person an A, B, C, D, whatever student? And I remember I would start my first day of class, the first class I had the students. I say, I would ask them. I said, who wants to get an A from this class? Everybody raised their hand. I said, just put your hand down. You know, I asked you again, who wants to get an A for this course? They raised their hand again. Okay, so look, I said, okay, look at the syllabus. Okay, see what you have to do to get that A. Okay, who wants to get an A for this course? Now everybody raised their hand. Because my thought, my feeling was that everybody begins with an A, but can you maintain that A? Can you stay with A? Will you do the work to maintain that A, and to make sure that you don't fall below that? You know, I think one of the things that we found through this program is that there are many people out there who are creative, you know, and there are many people out there who deserve a platform, you know, and that's what we provide, and that's why, you know, community. I'm speaking directly to you. If you're out there, if you're writing poetry, if you have something that you want to share, I do believe that everybody has at least one book within them. Some of them have more, you know. And Juanita McClure said, "Assalamu alaikum." Yeah, and so again, you know, we are diverse. We are a diverse community because we speak truth, and we actually speak truth back to us because we're in a situation where we need as much truth as we can. As we can have, because there's so many things that are not of truth, you know. But what say you, brother? Because I know your creative energy, man, it's almost tangible. But, you know, this brother's vibrating, you know. But we were in the library, man. He's writing something. I'm writing something. I said, I know he's writing a poem. I'm trying to prepare for the next guest. But the point that I'm making is that the creative energy that you talk about, Michael, is. I mean, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's like electricity through wires, you know. And my question to my brother, I mean, how do you understand creative energy? You know, did you understand it before Michael said it? Because sometimes, you know, one of the things about these self-help books, I do believe, is that when you read the book and it resonates with something inside you, you know, you always knew this. You know, you may be called it something different. So when I read Michael's book, you know, it resonated with me because, you know, because I didn't verbalize this, but I know this. I know this in my spirit, and that's why it was so easy for me to read the book and to relate. But what say you, brother? What is your thought about that?
You know, everyone who drives or drove a car, and you found
Not
yourself
me.
stuck, you know, because whatever was wrong, only to find out the battery was dead. So you need a jump start.
That's right.
And as you said, electricity through that wire. See, the reality is, in all jokes aside, because it relates in poetry, story, fiction, everything else.
Yes.
The fact that when something jolts you and you're like, whoa, as Mike said, I didn't know I was a writer. I didn't even know I was a writer. But when something hit you inside of you, it causes that jump start. It causes that energy to come forward. And all of a sudden you find yourself doing something that you didn't expect or realize, whether it's painting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. when we was at the library this morning, you know, I mean, I was amazed because you'd be surprised. You get lost like a child on Christmas looking for something or their favorite toy. We was all over the place. But I ran to a section. There were several sections, but I want to come back to this section of poetry. It was a whole section of poetry. There was poetry in Greek, poetry in Italian, poetry in European,
That's right, yeah.
poetry in Chinese, you name it. A whole wall, shelves of poetry. Poetry is inside of each and every single person. But it's only you when you get that joke that's a whoa. What is it?
That's right. Yeah.
It's when you bring it out.
That's right.
Draw. That's what we have in our opening.
Paint.
Artistic expressing.
Yeah.
You know, expressing painting and writers and authors, et cetera, all those things. And as our guest Mike is talking about, the 12 steps.
That's right.
There's something inside of you.
Yeah.
Don't you just sit there, and I don't say don't just sit there, but when you're conscious of sitting there, then you have the opportunity to say, wait a minute, why am I sitting here? Ask yourself that question. Because somebody come by and say, why you sitting there? And then you look at them like they're crazy.
That's right.
But ask yourself, why am I sitting here?
Yeah.
But you're being creative in your own mind. I'm sitting here because I'm meditating, I'm thinking, I'm in harmony, I'm doing something. You're not mad, you're not bothering anybody. So that's what's important. And something you said in short, in reference to in school classes, and I think this is one of the biggest issues. And I look at it as a stigma because the expectation, you have to do this to get a grade. Otherwise, it becomes a judgment.
Right.
Not the fact to recognize somebody who's making every attempt to do something, write something, to bring something to life. Because again, you can ask a child draw a picture, and those same picture, and I was thinking about this on the way up here.
Yeah.
You know, you ask a child to write something, and they write a circle and all these little stick people.
That's right.
But that stick image became on the calendar. You see it in museums,
That's right.
whatever, because the child created what was in them, and they brought it to life. This is what we're talking about. It's the exact same thing our guest is talking about. That mental state. It's in you.
It is. And when we went to the Princeton Library today, there was they call it a reading room, you know, and people were in there with their laptops and that type of thing. But on the wall, it was different paintings and that type of thing. And it just helps me understand that, you know, reading is more than just some walks on a piece of paper, you know, is more expansive than that, because, you know, those pictures on the wall, you know, and they were saying it's a collaborative effort of people come together and to do that. And Michael, before I let you go, is one of the things that I really want to just focus on. You say 12 steps to freedom, okay? But, you know, go back to vocabulary. Go back to your vocabulary. What do you mean freedom? What do you mean by freedom?
Well, the interpretation was freedom from self.
Okay.
And in my book, I describe it from the ego. I describe it as the I self. And the I self, that's what I found was my enemy. And as long as that I self is in play, it's very hard to be creative. It's very hard to be loving. It's just difficult because it's an energy. So it's the opposite energy of love, the I self, the ego, because it's all about satisfying yourself, and it's never satisfied. So it's always reaching. It goes back to that circular energy. I need this. I need that. I need this. I need that. That's why it has nothing to do with the substance. And going through the 12 steps, they all point you to look inward, so you can get in touch with what is, like that book, what is the truth? What is truly going on? Like my article today with the truly supportive. Is it truly supportive? You know, and you can only understand that if you can get quiet enough, if you can develop the discipline not to be all caught up in what you think and what. Let it arise. That's that's my big thing is I allow things to arise a lot. You know, regardless, I don't put too much pressure on myself. I've written over 4,000 articles, you know, and consecutive days too. It's pretty amazing. But I don't stress over it. I don't. Well, what am I going to write today? I allow it to arise. I let it flow.
Yes, yes.
I see things sometimes, and it triggers something. One time I saw, like, it was winter, and there was like 100 ducks sitting in the pond, just still as could be.
Yeah.
Nobody worrying about this or that. And it amazed me that I had to pull over and stop. And I said, look at the quietness.
This is beautiful.
And it was beautiful. But that's what happens when you can get quiet, when you can use these 12 steps. That's the freedom from the bondage of self. So you can be more loving, more creative, and get in touch with more of what's going on inside you, and how you can be in harmony more with life and be a better member of society, more productive, more loving. And it takes work, though. You have to have a willingness to do it.
Yeah, but and that's why, you know, community. I highly recommend this book. Okay. You know, again, one of the things that when I was teaching, what some colleges would do, they would have a book of the month. And what would happen is that everybody within that college community, whether it be Kane University or Union County College or Essex County College or Jersey City State University, everybody on campus would read this particular book. And so what I'm asking my community to do is get a copy of this book, read this book. Okay, because obviously, you know, we only did, like, of the 12, we only did 5 steps. So obviously there's more. So obviously we're going to have Michael back. And we want you to follow along. And you can do that by getting a copy of the book and reading the book, you know. It says here, "Is money only in your mind?" Explores life's deepest questions as well as recognizable real-life issues facing everyone, whether you want to enhance your spiritual life or not. It holds the vital power to transform all of our lives each day in the most profound of ways. And so, again, we highly recommend this book. We will be dialoguing with this author through the month of May into June, July, and as long as it takes, you know, to do this. And maybe, you know, in the course of us, you know, actually studying this book, maybe Michael might have a new book that we can discuss. Robert Cabestock says "on deck," and so I know Robert and Juanita and Aretha and Dina and Richard, you know, please pick up a copy of this book, because again, all we can do is just touch the surface of it, you know. But you need to sit down with this book. You need to meditate with this book, because again, it's going to resonate with something inside of you, because what he's talking about is what we all need to be thinking about. And as always, as we do this program, I mean, this hour goes so fast, you know. And so I'm looking at, I hope, the right clock. So, according to this, we have about 5 minutes, and so I'm going to let my brother, as always, you know, take us out of here with some kind of interrogation, some kind of takeaway from this evening with Michael.
It's a lot. The conversation in itself with the guests is so on point. But I'd like to go ahead and take a couple of minutes, and it's short, so I'm going to kind of briefly go through this, and this is important. I have another book here. It's called Emotional First Aid. Emotional First Aid. And this is a practical approach to common concerns by John R. Fishbein, Ph.D. Depression, communication, difficulties, anxiety, unsatisfactory intimacy, and others. And I just want to read this one piece here in short. And this is a reference to a young man, Sean, reaching out for help. By the time Sean came to me, needless to say, he was discouraged. He was down on himself and doubted his own ability to succeed. He looked to me to do something to solve his problem. My first objective was to help him discover that the solution was still within him. No matter how you look at it, what Mike is saying, what we've been talking about. And if I may, just want to, I may not be able to get the whole thing, but at least let me start this. The title of this one is From Pain to Freedom.
Yes.
The pain we feel, the freedom we see. Yesterday's dark past is now gone. To bright sunshine, I paint my stories alone. Even when I cannot cry, I smile until tears are wiped away. Beyond the skies, blue and white, though they may be, I can see as far as my mind takes me. Believing is the power of dreams. Stormy moments taught me how to reach for the light and close the blinds to my past, except to tell the story of the past from which I came. Rugged souls never complain, but sought me from that place of yesterday, only to smile into tomorrow's future, and I can go a mighty long way. And there's more, but I don't want to take too much time. But this conversation, our guests, the dialogue is so important to our listeners. We truly want to thank you, and we pray that you continue to take heed to this and pass it on. Because, again, not only whether we have one or two sessions, but this will go on and blossom throughout the world. But it's up to you to let it come out, to pass it on to somebody else.
Well, I thank you, Ronald. I thank you, Michael. And I thank you, our community. Again, we are Poetically Speaking, the place for spoken word. We're here Thursday from 6 to 7 and Sunday from 5 to 6. And again, bringing to you some food for thought, some ideas from our guests, some ideas for ourselves. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your comments. And with that said, we say good evening to you.